All right, let's get right into it. The start of any new mayor's term in New York is a huge deal, right? But Zoran Mamdani's first day as the 112th mayor began in a way the city had literally never seen before, deep underground.
And that brings us to the big question here. Why on earth would you kick off a historic mayoralty in a place that's been shuttered for decades? Well, it wasn't just some random quirky choice. It was a massive statement.
So picture this. It's just moments after the new year has officially begun, and Mamdani, with a very small group, goes down into the old City Hall station. It's this beautiful, almost ghost-like stop, famous for its incredible architecture. And it's right there, away from all the cameras and the crowds, that he officially becomes the mayor.
And the details of the oath itself are pretty fascinating. New York's Attorney General, Letitia James, was there to administer it. And in a historic moment, Mamdani became the very first mayor to be sworn in on the Quran. He actually used two different copies, one that belonged to his grandfather and another that was once owned by the pioneering Afro-Puerto Rican scholar Arturo Alfonso Schomburg.
And he didn't leave anyone guessing why he picked that spot. In his first remarks as mayor, he explained it directly. He wanted to send a crystal-clear message from the very first minute of his term. Public transit is the absolute lifeblood of New York, and it was going to be central to his entire administration.
So yeah, that midnight ceremony was just packed with symbolism. But to really get the full weight of it, we need to rewind a little and understand the whirlwind journey that brought him to that abandoned station in the first place.
I mean, his political rise was unbelievably fast. Think about it. He goes from being a state assemblyman in Queens in 2020 to defeating a political giant like Andrew Cuomo in the 2025 primary, and then he wins the whole thing just a few months later. It was a truly meteoric ascent.
And his victory wasn't just some political upset. It was historic on so many levels. He shattered barriers as the city's first Muslim and first South Asian mayor. He was born in Uganda, making him the first foreign-born mayor in decades. At just 34, he's the youngest in generations. And get this, he's the first member of the Democratic Socialists of America to lead the biggest city in the country. So how did he do it? How did he pull off this incredible win? Well, his campaign was laser-focused on one single word that every New Yorker feels in their bones: affordability. His whole argument was that the city was becoming impossible to live in for the very people who make it run. And his platform was, let's just say, ambitious. We're talking about huge transformative policies, things like making all city buses free, a total freeze on rent for rent-stabilized apartments. Those are the ones with limits on how much rent can go up. He even proposed city-owned grocery stores to bring down food prices. These weren't small ideas, and they energized a massive base of support.
Okay, so that brings us back to January 1st. After that private, symbolic oath at midnight, it was time for the big public celebration at City Hall.
And this public event? It was a perfect reflection of the political movement that got him elected. I mean, his political hero, Bernie Sanders, administered the public oath. AOC was there as a speaker. Honestly, it felt less like a stuffy, traditional inauguration and more like a huge party, right down to the public block party and performances from artists like Mandy Patinkin. But in the middle of all that celebration, Mamdani also took a moment to address one of the most difficult parts of his campaign, his outspoken criticism of the Israeli government. Facing a city that's deeply divided on the issue, he tried to bridge that gap with a very direct, very simple promise to New York's Jewish community.
So, with all the ceremonies out of the way, the real work began. And Mamdani's first full day as mayor was this really smart blend of powerful messaging and immediate, no-nonsense action. He started his morning exactly like millions of his constituents do, on the subway. The commute from his one-bedroom, rent-stabilized apartment in Queens was, of course, heavily photographed. It was all designed to drive home that image of him as a mayor of the people, not of the powerful. And this is really the key point, this contrast. The subway ride was pure messaging. It was a visual promise of a government that looks and lives like the people it represents. But then, his first major policy move was all substance, a sweeping executive order that wiped his predecessor's late-term orders completely off the books. He called it a clean slate.
And that clean slate immediately kicked up a political firestorm. Why? Because the revoked orders included two very controversial ones related to Israel, one of which blocked city agencies from getting involved in divestment. His supporters loved it. They saw it as a necessary reset. But as critics, they came out swinging, and the backlash was instant and fierce. So this immediate controversy really just highlights the tough road ahead. Mamdani's administration is starting out under an intense microscope, and it's facing a pretty unique set of challenges.
And the hurdles are massive. He's got to build some kind of working relationship with a president from the total opposite end of the political spectrum. He has to try and unite a city that's really fractured over his stance on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And of course, he has to figure out how to actually pay for all those incredibly ambitious and expensive programs. And he needs to do all of that while fighting off criticism about his lack of executive experience.
And really, that leaves us with the million-dollar question. Zohran Mamdani's term began deep underground, in a place that symbolizes both the city's past and its future. But now that he's governing from City Hall, can all of that powerful symbolism that fueled his historic rise actually translate into the real, substantive change that he promised a city so desperate for it? Well, only time is going to tell.